It is all of yours.
Okay. So is audio okay, Terry?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. We're just real pleased to be here as well. It's always kind of fun doing something for extension and doing it for a group that we know fairly well. So, and this is also a topic that I think all three of us are pretty passionate about. The elements of this we do use in a tourism-related customer service program that we offer called Red Carpet Service. So that's kind of how this came about. And then what we've done is we're able to kind of modify this to fit different organizations and different needs. So that's how we kind of came up with this Secrets of Service. So right now, I think we just need to kind of introduce ourselves a little bit more. So my name is Cheryl Burkhart-Creasel, and I'm an extension specialist. I'm located in Scotts Bluff. And so Jessica, would you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jessica Jones. I'm a Community Vitality Initiatives focused extension educator down here in the Southeast in Johnson County.
And Marilyn?
Hi, everyone. I'm Marilyn Schlake, and I am located on campus in the Department of Agricultural Economics, but I also work with Extension under the Community Vitality Initiative. I am a native of Gage County, so hi, everybody down in Gage County. So hopefully you enjoy this presentation today. And we want to have interaction, too, as we go along.
Actually, we've kind of built that in about 5 different places. So the people that are there at the local sites are going to be engaged and kind of helping us out and be on our right hands at the different locations. So let's just kind of jump in right now and get started. And so Marilyn, if you want to cue things up a bit. Perfect. So, you know, extension really is that opportunity to be that connecting link between the university, the research, and the best practices. So, and the public. So as master gardeners, you really are part of the system in a very real way. Boy, when it comes to everything garden and yard related, you are the front door to the university, and everybody kind of knows that. So, and one of the reasons they know that is, in my perspective, it becomes a big deal in this state because of that backyard farmer presence. You know, there are a lot of people that are pretty passionate followers of backyard farmer, and in some locales, it's about as much as a religion as Nebraska football. So, when gardening and horticulture is a passionate hobby for so many people, you know, it's an important piece. And in Nebraska, good heavens, there's lots of challenges. Nothing is ever dull. So that's why we all need your help. And that's, I think, also one of the reasons why everybody's so passionate about it. So when it comes to customer service, you know, what does this really look like? And I kind of joke about it a little bit, that in extension, we talk about service, but in the and doing good service, but a lot of times we really don't talk about how do you do it. So it maybe is a little like fairy dust. It's supposed to magically fall on us. I don't know. But in this session, we actually are going to be talking about it. And so very specifically, so for some, this might be a little bit of a refresher course and kind of keep you abreast of some of the things that we've done in the past, or you know, things you've seen and done. There could be some new ideas that are generated through some of this. And then for still others, you may start thinking about really how you can adapt maybe some of the things that you've done and are doing. So that's the whole idea behind this, is to just kind of elevate that whole notion and kind of refresh on what customer service is about. Okay, so here's a little heads up. At the end of the session, we really are going to ask you, what is one thing you will do differently as a result of what you learned today? So maybe when you picked up your materials at the sign-in table, or maybe they're at the table in your room or whatever, you should see maybe a little sticky note, maybe a 2x2 sticky note someplace. That's your opportunity during this session to kind of jot jot an idea down, maybe of one thing you do differently. And so you can do that at any time. And then at the end, we'll ask you for what that is. So that'll be your opportunity to do that. So do we have somebody unmuted?
I think she had, I think they muted.
I think we do have somebody unmuted. So Marilyn, I don't know if, there we go. Okay, sounds good. I was hearing a little bit of feedback. So anyhow, that sticky note is there for your reminder at the end. So let's go back to this whole master gardener role. And you know, you really are the contact point that people are passionate about. And so from my perspective, besides 4-H, you really are the connection that a lot of people think about when they think about Nebraska Extension or even the University of Nebraska. You're the contact point. So that's kind of a big deal, and it's an important role to play. The other piece about this is you're in such a great place with, you know, gardening and yard and horticulture. It's such a universal connection for so many people that you meet everybody, all sorts of things. So it kind of cuts across age, ethnicity, interests, professions, economic backgrounds, educational levels, you name it. This passion cuts across all kinds of things. It also brings everybody together. So that's a real fun component. Not many fields or areas have that kind of a glue that can bring people together. And well, of course, this also means you get a lot of inquiries and a lot of customer interactions. So for many, and in a lot of different ways. So they can come through that front door. They can come electronically, by phone. You really are kind of on call 24/7. And I would suspect in your smaller towns especially, you probably even get stopped in grocery stores, on the street, in your church, you name it. They really want and help. They really want your help and your advice. Often when people think of great service, they think of the Disney organization, and it's kind of gotten to be one of the landmarks for service. And it's a huge organization, and in some respects, it's amazing that they can do the service that they do, because they are all over the world. They employ people from a lot of different nationalities, and they really do it in a pretty stressful environment if you think about it. You know, there are lodging and rides and food service. All those things can work or they can't work, and so it's not the easiest environment to do a lot of service in. And even the sheer scale of Disney, simple things like parking can be kind of a monster in terms of service. I mean, that can mess up things as well. But they've gotten to be known for service, and even kind of beyond what they do. You know, when you go to a Disney property, you're going to be treated well. So a few years ago, I had the opportunity to attend what was called the Disney Quality Service Institute, and I did get to meet the big guy. This is during graduation. Of course, you got the little tassel, and of course you get ears. Of course, I happened to be the person in the kind of light colored shirt. And the thing that was so amazing, because there were about 30 or 40 of us that attended this, there were very few that were really involved in tourism that attended this Quality Service Institute. They were from all kinds of different organizations across the world, everything and anything. And what they were really there for is to learn how to incorporate or to infuse service across an organization and really hit a lot of touch points with the customer. So, you know, we might be sharing some tourism examples and some Disney examples, and we will, because that's kind of fun to see how they do service in their organization. But the principles really cut across all kinds of different organizations, businesses, nonprofits, all sorts of situations. And that's really kind of what the fun part is. So Marilyn?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, so Cheryl's giving you an introduction of what customer service is about. And, you know, it's not always the easiest thing to handle. There may be situations that are a little bit difficult. And so what we want you to do now, working with your local facilitator, is answer the question, what are some challenging customer service experiences that you have had? So take a few minutes, think about that, write it down on one of those little Post-it notes that Cheryl talked about, and then be willing to share in your group there at the local level. And then if we got some great stories, we'd love to hear them. So facilitators, either raise your hand, type it in the chat line to give us an idea of what's going on. We want to hear that feedback as well. So we have about 10 minutes, and we'll give you opportunity to talk amongst yourself. Are there any questions before we start? Okay, so have at it.
Yep. Is the group or are the leaders able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, ready for, I don't know if this is precisely what we're hitting on, but I had a situation where with a group of gardeners within my community, one of the individuals had a really good and appropriate idea to get some recognition from the Arboretum and, you know, get some designation for this park. And, you know, it was because there was just some factions that just had some political or whatever agendas. And so as sort of the designated leader of this group, it was difficult to come across so that this good idea could be looked at in a different view, a more open and uh, acceptable way and leading to discussion. So I'm wondering, you know, that's one of my questions I think that may come my way in the next few years. How you handle sort of a political situation so that you can really be not overbearing or taking others' ideas out, but instead get it open in more common ground sharing. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We are taking notes here on that. Thank you very much for sharing.
We do have somebody that put in the chat that communication can be challenging and that asking good questions probably is key. So.
So what have been some specific challenges individuals have had, a situation, a story that it was a challenge to deal with?
There are a couple of things coming into the chat. One of them is keeping everybody happy at our local plant fair, which makes me smile. And then, you know, listening starting from the beginning are two that's there. Another item in the chat is the challenge that's being listed, I think here is you can be limited on what you can say or do, and that can be a challenge. And another one here, at the county fairs, explaining to exhibitors why they did not receive a certain premium that they thought they should have received, can be a bit challenging. Okay, from Kelly Fian, a city was voting on burning in town. Someone asked the extension master gardeners to teach about why burning was bad. Wanted them to get in the middle of a political issue. Definitely a challenge. And here's another one that says, in the business world, diffusing an angry customer if you're on the front line can always be a challenge. Getting the public to understand they can't take vegetables from the donation garden. Okay, that can be a challenge too. We have a whole gamut of things.
Okay, in about 3 more minutes, we'll come back on. And so if you want to type in more of your challenges, we'd love to see them.
We've got a comment here that angry customers are always a challenge. Learning how to identify with their frustrations without being walked on or abused verbally is sensitive. And you're right, it is. It's a bit of an art as well as a science. How to handle trees that die in an arboretum that has been placed in memory of a family or a family member. Undoubtedly, a lot of tact needs to happen there. The whole topic of GMOs, people have very definite ideas, some of which aren't research-based.
Well, it looks like that may be all of the messages we have coming through. So, but if you have some more, please go ahead and type them in because we'll be coming back to those later in the presentation. Here's another one that came in. People come to you with a problem but don't want solution, just want to vent. Very, very common. So we'll be addressing those, and so let's go ahead and continue so we stay on time here. Let's see if I can get this to change. So what we're going to talk about, and Cheryl already mentioned that, we're talking about the secrets of service. And we do know that from the stories that we heard here, that you've provided some of those challenging situations, is that sometimes it's hard to give great customer service. And every person is different, every situation is different, and no matter what the event is, we do always need to rise to the occasion to provide the best possible service. And just as a carpenter uses tools to build, frontline employees, frontline individuals such as yourself, those who meet with the public need to have and access a variety of tools. And so what we have done through the Secrets of Service, we've put together a tool for each one of the letters in the word service. So we're going to give you a set of tools in which you can use as you deal with customers and the public going forward. So the first one we're going to talk about is the letter S. See it from the customer's point of view. I'm going to get rid of that. And think about what is it that your customer is seeing? What are they experiencing as they walk up to you? Do they feel overwhelmed? Do they feel that, oh wow, they're seeing so many of the different plants and the flowers. Do they feel uncomfortable? You know, you need to be observant and learn about your customers and ask questions. I know when I walk into a greenhouse, I have all these ideas of creating this magnificent, beautiful garden. But reality is that I have a very brown thumb, and I have managed to make the weeds look much bigger than the plants that I tried to grow. And I'm sure you've talked to other people like that just have this look of dismay, but hope that what they're doing is something that's going to be of value and beauty later on in the season. And for me, last year, I did have an opportunity to talk with a master gardener, and she gave me some great ideas on the types of plants that I need to have because I'm a very neglectful gardener. And she was right. I had wonderful potted plants. I didn't try to do a whole garden, but did a little portion of what I was envisioning, and it worked out great. So I'm very thankful. So that's sharing your ideas and understanding what it is that the individual that you're working with, what they're dealing with. And it could be from many, many points of view. On the flip side of that, let's get the slide over. The other S, the stereotypes. If we're seeing it from the customer's point of view, it also makes us think about what is our point of view coming into this relationship. And for some reason, we don't have the picture showing up. There we go. And so we need to be very careful of stereotypes and jump into conclusions. We all carry around beliefs that certain people are like and not like, and we learn this as children. So this is something that we need to be very cognizant about. And when you were just kind of thinking about stereotypes, when you think about bikers, which one comes to mind? Is it the bikers on the left or the bikers on the right? When you think about bikers riding through Nebraska, are you thinking about those that are going to Sturgis? There's a lot of different types of people that go to Sturgis. They may be the mom and dad of young children. They may be doctors or lawyers, or in the case of one of my good friends, a superintendent of a very prominent school district here in Nebraska. So you need to think about, just because they may look different, they may have a different skin color, may have different accents, may have tattoos, may not. We need to think about it from their perspective that, maybe they just love to be part of the gardening experience, and they are coming with open hearts and open minds, and they want to learn, and we're all in this together. And so just think about your own perceptions as you go forward when dealing with the public. And here's another instance of an individual that may be a stereotype. There is, in one of the rural communities, we heard this story about a motorcycle person came up with a helmet on, of course, and parked in a rural town, and they were going, oh my gosh, who is this person? And when they pulled off the helmet, they were surprised to see it was a woman, a mature gray-haired woman, and she asked, can you tell me where the quilt shop is? Not what one would probably expect. So just, when you think about the bikers, there's a lot of different aspects that people come forward with those. And people come into our communities, they look different in a lot of different ways, and we need to try and see it from their perspective and not ours. And here's another example too, is when we think about trees, depending on where you're from or your history with trees, that can create different connections with people. Some people are very passionate about their trees and wanting to save them no matter what the cost, and others take them for granted. As we mentioned earlier, maybe the tree was planted in honor of someone who died, and the tree is a symbol of their dear one's life. It's not necessarily a personal philosophy, but it's very endearing to them. Or maybe they live like Cheryl does, or you out in the western part of Nebraska, where trees are harder to grow. And so you're very passionate about keeping those trees alive and doing whatever you can to keep that going. So understanding what drives the individual's passions could help you see their perspective as well. Okay, Jessica.
All right, our next letter is E, and it stands for enjoy helping others. Think about how you feel when you help someone out. People come to Master Gardeners for a variety of reasons, and it's important to realize that. And you play a part behind the scenes or up front, depending on where you're working, to make the activities that Master Gardeners do happen. Regardless, you are an important part of people's lives. When you make others feel good, especially the customers that come to you for advice and for help, especially if the customer got more than they expected out of that, it can really wow them. It can really make them become a repeat customer and somebody that continually comes back. It's important when you're with enjoying helping others that you see some purpose behind your work. If you can find some calling behind why you're doing to volunteer rather than just seeing it as work. Next slide. Part of helping others is to create an understanding amongst yourself and the person coming to you for help. And we all probably feel very rewarded when we're talking to someone and they have that, and you're explaining something to them and they kind of have that light bulb moment. They get it and they're able to take it and apply it. Being a part of that, helping them to understand that, it's just a good feeling that hopefully you can repeat with customers, and it stays with you at the end of the day. When you go home, you can feel that you accomplished something for the day. Part of the creating understanding also is asking powerful questions of the people that are asking for advice. Kind of really looking for what they want, more than just yes/no questions. Asking those questions to help identify their true wants and needs in terms of what they're asking you. This also helps you build trust with the customers. Makes them feel like they're more valued. Their responses are more valued by you, and hopefully they value you too in this situation. Next slide. I know we probably have all felt this. When you help someone and they appreciate, you feel good, and it hopefully encourages you to do it again. And people can really tell, those people that enjoy helping others. It's obvious. It makes a big difference to your customers, and it makes a big difference to yourselves in the way you feel and how you view your position at the end of the day. There's a different kind of tired at the end of the day when we've been working all day, when you know you've helped make a difference and made a good day for someone else. For example, here in the Extension office, we all know Extension during the summertime becomes kind of crazy with the county fair and everything. And some people don't like doing the county fair. There's parts I don't like, but I also really enjoy the feeling of putting a long day in at the fairgrounds and having that 4-H'er come up to me, or that parent come up to me and really show their appreciation for all the work that we've done to make the fair a positive experience for them.
Okay, so the R in this service is respond courteously. So, what does it mean to respond courteously? Basically, it can mean a lot of different things, but when you respond courteously, you're probably more likely to get a pleasant response back. When somebody comes in or you're talking to somebody on the phone, you really don't know what's happened to that person. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe something's bothering them. Could be a million different things. But just a smile, a pleasant attitude, maybe a problem-solving attitude can really be a game changer for a lot of people. There's another aspect to this too. When a person's grumpy, let's say, and they are periodically, we've all had several of them probably come to you a time or two, we really can't take it personally. And it's so easy to beat up on yourself if somebody's not happy maybe with what you're telling them. And it's so easy to be defensive. But boy, you really need to try and not go down that path, because if you can stay positive, you'll have a much better chance and a much better outcome in the long run. But this is almost going against what naturally you want to do. But so just make a little mental note to yourself that the last thing you want to do is be defensive. So there's a lot of different programs, and we had a couple of those questions about how to work with difficult people, maybe work in a kind of a little bit of a conflict situation. There are whole workshops, hours and hours, that deal with this topic alone. And so, you know, but there is one simple thing that you can do, and one simple thing you can do to remember, and that is there's something called a mirror effect. And so let me give you an example. So if a person's kind of grumpy and they're in front of you, the thing you don't want to happen is you don't want to get hooked into their behavior or their tone of voice. You don't want to mirror their negative emotions, because if you do that, and what happens then, you really end up kind of making that person or irritating that person even more and making them grumpier. And what you've done is really escalated the conversation, and you started kind of a battle back and forth, and that is not good. So what you want to do is really to kind of break that cycle. And I always use the term be that calm, cool, and collected person. Now, I didn't say it was easy, but that's, if you can remember to do that, to break that up, it'll really benefit you in the long run. And the real key here is to be sincere about it. You really want to help the person, and they'll pick up on that. It's really hard for that other person to be and stay grumpy when you're really trying to help them out. And, you know, just yesterday on public radio, I heard a report that was talking about this very thing about mirroring reflections, mirroring emotions. And they were taking it kind of to the next level, and they were talking even about the responses you get on social media in terms of Twitter and Facebook. And they said the same thing happens on social media as does face-to-face. If you can respond back in a positive way, there's a really good chance the tone's going to change and everything will be for the better.
Okay, have to get all the mechanics of switching things over. Okay, the next letter is V, standing for volunteer your ideas. And this is where you can really shine as a master gardener. You could share your information and your experiences, because individuals be looking for your advice and recommendations. And to best do that, you need to, again, understand your customer's point of view, Secret Service letter number S. So here's a tourism example to give you an idea how volunteering your ideas can make a difference. But this could easily apply to master gardeners in the information that you share as well. It's very important. You know, you are representing the university, but you're also representing your community. And how do you better sell your community than to give advice and to share, you know, what else can you do in the community? In North Platte, as someone was checking out of a motel, the person at the front desk asked him if they had seen the sandhills cranes. Of course, this is in the spring. It's a big deal across the state of Nebraska, or at least the central part of Nebraska. And when the visitor said no, the clerk gave them some directions on how to see some of those really close by, so it was very convenient for them to go view the cranes. And while they were looking at the cranes, the gentleman saw someone working on an antique farm equipment and was interested in it, and started talking to the other gentleman, and found out there was going to be an antique farm show near North Platte in a few days, kind of around the same time frame. And the reason that we do know that this occurred is because that same couple came back to North Platte the next year, and they didn't do it because of the cranes, which was also another reason to come back, but they went to the antique farm equipment show. And so it's all happened because someone asked them, just, have you seen the cranes? They volunteered to say, hey, this is something else that you can do. This is maybe a different type of plant you can grow, or you can try this if you have a green thumb and things are working, and why not try a new variety? So you never know for sure what resonates with people. So be ready to volunteer your ideas and make them comfortable in that discussion with you, and to find out, you know, more of exploring what are the possibilities that they want to look at. And this next slide goes back to a little bit of what Cheryl was talking about. also being courteous. So seeking that commonality, how can you do that? There are some simple little techniques and tricks that you can use. Is ask questions that are very simple and straightforward. Don't ask multiple questions at the same time, but give them time to respond, and try to use the other person's name to capture their attention. I am one of the persons that I have a hard time remembering someone's name. And so one of the things that I try to do, sometimes not very successfully, but I try to, when I first get that person's name, start repeating it and use it a couple of times throughout the conversation to make sure it's starting to stick in my mind. And then it also makes them feel like, hey, they are really listening to me because they know my name and they're starting to capture what I'm all about. Keep your questions short and to the point. Ask only one thought per question. Again, not having very convoluted questions that sometimes it's very hard to put one answer to. And through all of this, we have our jargon, our slangs, our abbreviations that we use. Try to avoid those. Because think about the person that you're talking to. If they're a newbie gardener or a want-to-be gardener like me, sometimes I wouldn't get that jargon or that slang or the abbreviations. I wouldn't even know what you're necessarily talking about. So try to be as succinct and descriptive as possible. And avoid asking pointed questions such as, why did you? Instead, could you tell me about how you did this? What happened? Describe to me the situation. What happened when you put this fertilizer on? Did it kill your plants? Did it make them grow? So try to get to the root of the issue that they're dealing with in a very non-confrontational type of questioning. And like with all good customer service, a smile is warm and welcoming, and your voice plays into that. Even when you're answering a phone, if you happen to be in the extension office answering the phone, one of the tricks that some people use, and I do this too, if it's a very tense situation, stand up and put a smile on your face and then talk to that individual on the phone. They can't see what you're doing, but it does give you some more gravitas really when you're talking to that individual, and it comes through your voice when you get that smile in your voice. And so what we're going to do, we're going to turn it over to the local facilitators again. So you can practice volunteering your ideas to someone. And we're going to ask you to work into pairs and go to some of the ideas that you want to try out. So think of a situation. Maybe you can have a situation between you two and think about, what would you do to respond to this situation? Think about the different customer service skills that we've already went through. But here, you may want to try this variety. Have you ever tried or experimented with this? So come up with some ideas, work with your facilitator, and we'll give you quite a bit of time to do this. So first, get into pairs, think about some of this, and work through a pair type of situation, and then with a larger group, talk about some of the ideas that you have. And then we'll be coming back with you shortly. Just checking in. So how are the groups going? We can't hear anything or see anything. Do you need a little bit more time? Okay, we have some responses starting to come in on the chat line. What we'd like for the groups to do at the local level, if someone would want to actually come up to the mic and share their ideas, we would love to hear them in person as well, or vocally, I should say, not in person. Does anybody from any of the locations want to share?
Okay, try it and see. Hi, can you hear us from Clay Center?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we agree that the whole idea of asking questions is a good idea. I teach and at parent-teacher conferences, I always ask when parents come in, I always ask them questions. Oh, what did they say about my class? And do they like it? Do they complain about it? Is there any activities that I've done that they've mentioned at home or anything like that? I think that's probably the best way to get people talking and to find out what their needs are and what they want from whatever interaction you're having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, otherwise, how will you know without asking those questions?
Precisely.
Yeah. Great. Any other comments that someone would like to share? Okay, Gage County, you put a message up there. We're going to call on you. Can you talk about your comment?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, one of the suggestions from the group was if we could maybe provide like a little freebie, like a plant stake or something like that to kind of, when someone's getting a little angry, maybe kind of brighten their day a little bit.
So what happens if you give it to just the grumpy people and not everyone?
Well, that was mentioned that, you know, or the grumpiness.
Maybe they get a smiley on their stick or something.
even just giving away freebies helps, you know, and something like that maybe brings them a little bit of joy and things like that to kind of help brighten their day, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes a token of their appreciation of who they are and coming. Yeah, that does help. Wonderful, thank you. Other comments?
This is Kelly from Platte County. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I gave them a question to figure out how to ask questions. And the question was a gentleman who had come in and said, my lawn looks horrible, but don't tell me I'm not watering enough because I water every single day and my system puts out an inch of water every time I water. So I told them, figure out questions, how to ask questions to help this gentleman issue. And they all came up with lots of good questions, such as, well, explain, describe to me how your lawn looks and why you feel it looks bad. Soil type, what type of grass is it? Have you measured to make sure that your system is actually putting out an inch? And then gradually getting to the point of helping him to come to the realization himself that maybe he was overwatering.
That's a subtle way to get them to understand that the mistake that maybe they are making, but it's not so pointed towards them, and make them feel uncomfortable that they did make a mistake. Very good. Okay. Any other suggestions?
There's one that came in from Panhandle. They still have clients who like to receive printed materials to read and understand their problem better.
Okay.
So sometimes I think we need to have something rather than just directing everybody to a website.
Good idea. Okay. So how about Red Willow? We haven't heard from you. Red Willow?
Hello.
Hello.
There's only one of me.
There's only one of you there?
There's only one of me. So I'm just taking this all in. This is really good though.
Well, do you have any suggestions?
No, I'm just thinking I totally agree with the questions, just asking away.
Okay. I hate to put you on the spot, but I just picked someone by random here. Thank you for playing along.
It's all good.
Anybody else? No. Well, this is the time that which the suggestions that you have are very good, and I hope you're keeping track of this, and we'll keep track of this on the chat line as well. But this is a time that we have scheduled for break. So we're going to take a 15-minute break at this time and come back it'll be 7:40, and then we'll be ready to go again. Thank you, everyone, for your participation so far.
Resume the recording and you guys can take it away again.
All right. Thanks, Terry.
All right. Our next letter is I, which stands for I can make a difference. Even in bad situations, you can make it run smoother. You have the power to do that. Sometimes taking the time to make a bad situation more tolerable can help you win a customer over for life, can help you create that relationship with someone that they'll continually come back to you for advice. A couple examples, think about examples you've had in your life. For example, when you've left something at a business and you've called and they've either saved it for you to come back to get it, or they have even maybe mailed it to you. A couple of examples I have when little things have made a difference is one time I went to go get a prescription at the pharmacy, and for some reason what I needed didn't come in with the order that day, even though the pharmacist had ordered it. And I was leaving town later in the day, and he went above and beyond, I think, to track it down at another pharmacy for me so I could have it before I left town. Another example is I'm not a paid spokesperson for this website, but Chewy.com. I order dog food from there regularly, and I've had outstanding customer service from them. For example, they packed a box that I ordered wrong, and there was something that I didn't order in there, and I called and told them, I'm like, And I'm like, I can mail it back. And they're like, just keep it and feed it to your dogs or take it to a shelter to give it to donate to them. So those are a couple examples I've had where I've seen people really take this to heart. Next slide, Marilyn. An example we always use in this is Disney, since it's based on a lot of the Disney principles with Space Mountain. So there was a little girl that was getting ready to get on Space Mountain, and she was crying because she could not take the ice cream cone that she had just gotten on the ride. So one of the employees there said, "I'll hold it for you, and it will be here when you get off." Everyone knows that the cone would not last the 20 minutes it took for the ride, so the person had a new one waiting for the girl as soon as she got off it, and said, "Here's your cone, problem fixed." This is one example of how Disney, as a corporation, empowers its employees to make a difference in the lives of their customers. And think about if you as master gardeners are empowered to really make a difference in the lives of those people that you touch. And think about, is it a part of the culture within the program to really make a difference? Next slide. So think of some examples that makes it helps support you and in your role as a master gardener, that makes it easy for you to do excellent customer service. Some examples we came up with were demonstration sites that we might have. Some of the materials available, that's been kind of touched upon so far, being able to have those printed materials for those people that prefer to have something to read in their hand. Are there any other examples? If you want to just type them in the chat or get on the microphone, that's fine.
I'm going to call out some of these counties that I know of some of the stuff that you're doing. I want you guys to think about it. So, Norfolk, I know that you guys have your plant sale. So that would be something that would be an excellent learning experience for people. I know you guys do a lot of learning and workshops there. Kelly, you've done your rain garden demonstrations in Columbus, in Platte County. I know Lincoln County has a demonstration garden and a donation garden. So
all very good examples. Another example I just thought of is I recently traveled to San Antonio for some work meetings, and it was the start of the San Antonio Rodeo and Stock Show, one of the last day we were there. And so we actually got a chance to meet with an extension educator down there, and their master gardeners, in cooperation with the H-E-B grocery store chain, have a big tent that focuses on ag education for children, getting people aware of where their food comes from, being able to see some of the plants, because a lot of times people don't understand what the vegetables actually look like when they're growing in the garden. So, all right. Cheryl, I think I pass it on to you now.
Okay, sounds good. So the next letter here in service is C, and it stands for customer. So the classic question is the customer always right? And, I really love this poster because, rule number 1 is the customer is always right. And rule number 2 is if the customer is ever wrong, reread rule number 1. And so it gets you back into that the customer is always right. So here's the real question. Is the customer always right? You know, the reality is the customer is always the customer, and that's kind of the bottom line. And so sometimes you have to find a way really to help the customer be right. And it might be just a very small thing that acknowledges their idea or situation, but it's also kind of a way sometimes to help them save face a little bit. And we all kind of want that as part of it. And so one of the first steps in that, it really is listening. It's critical. They might be trying to explain what they want or how they need something to fit their situation. To make that right match, you have to listen carefully to see really what they are wanting. So there's a couple of ways that you can help a customer to be right. And maybe the easiest is to what I call assume innocence and just not jump to a conclusion on how something might be used. Maybe there was a miscommunication. You know, sometimes there can be just plain honest mistakes. Another way is to think about it in terms of looking for that teaching opportunity. Maybe you can show someone how something could be used, a special feature, or an aspect they might not be aware of. Might be even a safety component if you think about your master gardener role. So you really see the customer is always right in taking that opportunity to learn. You see this a lot in retail, in the sales environments, in appliance and tech stores where somebody might bring something in. They think it's broken or busted or not made right, and really it's a matter of they don't know how. They haven't learned how to really use it quite right. So having that opportunity for that teachable moment is really key. So that's the C in service. There's also another part to this. So there are times when things just go wrong. And this especially happens in the food industry, for instance. You just have to fix the situation. There's lots of opportunities where things can go wrong there. So, excuse me. Actually, we picked this up from talking to somebody who is really a part of the Pizza Hut franchise, and this is a part of their corporate training. And they'll use this acronym called LAST, and it's really a simple one, and it's really one sometimes to have in your back pocket when you need that way to handle kind of a bad situation. And it's very simple. The L stands for listen. A stands for agree and apologize. The S is satisfy, or what can I do to make it right? And the T basically is to thank them, because it's much better for them to make a complaint to you than to have it plastered on on social media anyway, or at the coffee shop or whatever it could be. So that's just a handy way to think about trying to move on and fix that situation. So listen, agree and apologize, satisfy, and thank. 4 steps. 4 easy steps to remember. There's a unique thing that I think happens in the master gardener world, and at least that's what people tell me, and it's where people actually shop for the answer they want to hear. Now, I usually don't hear this so much in other niches, whether it be in business or nonprofits. So not quite sure why this happens, but and so I'm not sure if if people really are not listening to what you're saying, or maybe they get the feeling they really are listening for the answer they want to hear. So it's a very kind of unique situation. And why it happens, I'm not quite sure. I can just maybe speculate, and maybe you guys have also got some great answers for that, especially in the gardening world. Maybe it's because they've been doing it for such a long time. They're just sure they have the answer, and they want it confirmed by somebody. Or maybe they don't really want to hear the real answer, because it costs money or time or both, or maybe it changes how they work in their yard and garden, and maybe it even changes a habit that they have, or one that they've kind of learned to kind of grow with. So if they're shopping for this answer that they already have, this kind of puts you between what I would call a rock and a hard place a little bit. You have to walk the fence between having some empathy and also being firm. And so this is where sort of the art of the conversation takes place, I think. So, you know, some ways to maybe start that out might be is, I have not thought of that. Here's what I would do or would do. Another way to maybe approach it would be, next time you might try X and compare. Maybe another approach could be, interesting. Not sure why that's happening, but this might be another approach. So you're kind of acknowledging them at the same time, maybe steering them in the right direction. Now, granted, some of this works, and then there are times when it doesn't work. But you've done kind of the best you can. But I think giving them that other option kind of opens the door a little bit for that to happen. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. The last letter is the letter E, and that stands for every detail matters. And when you talk about customer service, the person that is immediately in front of you is the best and most important person of that day, or that customer of that day. You know, take the time to do a good job with that person. Providing the quality service is very important, and all those little details that make their life easier, that interaction easier for them to be successful in that process. And so anticipate what they may be needing, have everything that you have prepared for the day or the event that which you're dealing with. Make sure you have that available so that when someone asks those questions, if they want a handout, if they want that literature to read, you have that available. And so you may be dealing with that person right in front of you, but there may be someone that's standing in, you know, in the wings waiting to talk to you. One of the first things you can do is just acknowledge that person. Give them a smile. Again, that one of those first rules for working with customers, give them that smile and acknowledge that they're present there. They may be impatient, but if you actually have that interaction, they may be more willing to wait around until that earlier conversation is done with. And so just let them know that you acknowledge their presence as well. Just to give you an example of something that really irritated me, and this was in a small rural community. I'm not going to tell you where or what the shop is, but I went into a gift shop, and I'm sure it wasn't the store owner, but a clerk was sitting behind the counter reading a book, didn't look up when I arrived, didn't acknowledge me. I walked all the way to the back of the store, still didn't have any acknowledgement, and then proceeded to walk completely out without having any knowledge that I was even present in there and that was an important customer. So needless to say, I did not buy anything in that store and went to the next one on down the road or down the street and purchased my gifts from that clerk. They greeted me at the door. They asked me what it was that I was looking for, got into a conversation of what my needs may be, showed me some new product lines, and they got my business. So a lot of those interactions make a big difference to how that person will react with you as well. We're going back to Disney, and Disney is all about the details, and that's what makes it very successful. They are clean and orderly. They have signs that direct you where you need to go, from the restrooms to the different
Venues.
Yeah, those things too. You know, and they give you space to walk around, and the employees are clean and appropriately dressed. There's name tags. You think about Disney, I mean, thousands and thousands of people go there every day, and to be able to manage that with the thousands of people that are there. One of their philosophies is you know, it's everybody's responsibility to pick up trash, no matter if you are a custodial person or if you are one of the princesses dressed as to entertain. It's everybody's responsibility to the maintenance crew. And so one of the things that you will notice there also is the details of sound and the presence of the individuals that are dressed as the princesses or princes or other characters. The streets and how clean those streets are. They are cleaned, steam cleaned every morning in preparation, because think of all the people that are walking through, the people that throw their gum, their trash and everything, it gets dirty. So they have all those details that they pay attention to. And, you know, as I mentioned, they're all appropriately dressed. They have the company logo on. If they're handling the food, the hair covering, the plastic gloves, name tags. You know, there's nothing more disconcerting is if you go into a restaurant and the individual that is taking care of your food is has stains and stuff over their apron, and you're going, well, gee, you know, what does that kitchen look like in the back? You know, is it sanitary? Is it something that I want to even, you know, get a food order out of? So those types of things make a lot of impression on individuals as they come into your establishment or your place of activities, events. So think about that. We'll come back to it a little bit later here. But also when you're thinking about customer service, think about setting that bar of expectations. Let the customers know what to expect each and every time. If you are going to give something extra, if you're going to give someone the grumpy stick, make sure that they know that they're getting something a little bit extra. Or if you're giving a free sample away, such as a small tree or a plant, make sure that they know that this is something special and that maybe next time it won't be here, so they don't always expect that extra to come along. Because otherwise they may be disappointed the next time. Or they tell somebody else, say, hey, go down to so-and-so, you're going to get a tree. But on Saturdays, we're not giving away a tree. So, you know, make sure that they know those expectations. And under-promise and over-deliver. If you promise something, make sure that you follow through on it. It's easier to say, gee, I was able to do this for you. It was above and beyond what we normally do, and so that makes that individual feel very honored that they were able to get their needs met. But if you can't deliver it, don't even offer it, because that sets the customer up for disappointment. And then also lead by example. You think about some of the restaurants that are known for customer service. I mean, you have McDonald's and you go there, it's going to be the same type of situation over and over and over again. Or Starbucks, it's going to be, you know what to be expected as to customer service in those establishments. Maybe there's a culture that we have with Master Gardener that they know what to expect when they come to talk to an individual. And so we'll be talking about that shortly. You guys can think of some examples of what the expectations are you as you deliver customer service. And so I'm going to turn the next slide here. So what does that look like for Master Gardeners? How do you answer the phone? How, you know, are you expected to wear shirts and name tags? If not, what can you do to establish that designation that you are a Master Gardener? What does it look like when you're at the county fair or at the home and garden shows, the booths, or whatever types of events that you are working with? How do you interact with individuals so that they know that this is a place that they can go to get their answers met? And so what do you think is important? What we'd like for you to do at this point is work with your local facilitators and just shout out and someone record it as to what do you think are those expectations that you as a Master Gardener need to fulfill so that your customers know what the expectations are and how they can best interact with you and identify you as a Master Gardener. So we'll give you only about 5 minutes this time, so you need to be quick. And if the facilitators, if you would record those answers, that would be helpful. So we'll turn it over to you. Okay, that was a real quick 5 minutes, and I'm sure you are not done discussing, but there's a couple of ideas that came across the chat line. One of the suggestions is definitely answer the phone by saying what your title is and your name. And I pull down here a little bit. Definitely answer the phone with a kind hello, your title and your full name. Another time, make eye contact with the person and keep them engaged, particularly important at the county fairs. Thank you. And let's see, respond to the question as soon as possible. Very good. Don't answer the phone if you're engaged in talking to someone face to face. So that's giving them the full attention, and hopefully that person on the phone will leave a message and you can get back to them as soon as possible. Try to find the answer or another person who may have the answer. Wonderful. Would someone like to voice some ideas so we can hear you out there? How about David, your group out there? David Lott?
Yes, ma'am. I had to unmute and I was clearing the back of the room.
Oh, I'm sorry. Made you run.
No, that's okay. Our group was talking
I said we can't see anybody.
One of the things that we talked about is that first impression, and that we are ambassadors for the University of Nebraska, as well as Extension, as well as ourselves. And when we interact with each other and the public, that people will remember, oh yes, we had a wonderful visit with the Master Gardener from Stapleton. That impression just hits right off. And that's what people remember. Something that's very, very powerful. So having a concern, I think a lot of times people are just really interested in knowing that you care. You care about their question or their request or what they're interested in, and they sought us out as a source for reliable information.
Okay, wonderful. David, since you're on the phone here, I don't want to have you run again. Are there shirts and name tags? I truly don't know that the Master Gardeners wear that help identify them to give that image.
Yes, we do have tags. We have tags. We have shirts that are ordered your first year as an intern in the Master Gardener program. And then after that, you can order shirts every year. And so there's lots of varieties, whether it's a t-shirt or a polo shirt or a long sleeve, you have choices. And many of our Master Gardeners wear their name badge to events that we teach at and go to, so we are visible. And like we talk about, word of mouth moves really fast. So maybe you're not wearing your shirt or your badge, but friends know friends. And they'll say, oh yes, Joanne Sorensen, I know her. She's a Master Gardener and she works down at the Holiday Inn in North Platte. And then that just starts the ball rolling.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Anybody else? How about Brett? Are you nearby?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Creighton. I'm with David Lott's group, I guess.
Wonderful.
I'm new here in Nebraska. I came from Washington State, where I was certified in 2015.
Welcome.
But I went through a training program for customer service, and about answering phones. You can tell if a person is actually smiling on the other end of the line when they talk to you. And so when you answer the phone and you're in a good mood and you're not grumpy pants and you're happy and you're smiling, they actually feel that on the other end of the line. And so, as well as when you're doing county fairs or home or garden show booths, that smile from a Master Gardener is kind of expected. Like, we're happy people. We work in gardens. and plants make us happy. You know, it's just that happy people are in gardens, and that's always how people expect or interpret gardeners. And so I just wanted to add that.
Wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay. And here's another suggestion that came out from the Panhandle. If the master gardener cannot give the answer, we could get the person's name and number and advise them we'll pass on their question and contact information to the person who can answer the question. So being that conduit to make sure that you are getting the right information to them, and then following up to make sure those connections were made as well. That's also an important piece of that to tag on, is that you may be that conduit that if those connections don't get made, the problem is not solved. So making sure you're following up to see if the situation was read to me. Okay, how about Hall County? We haven't heard from you tonight.
We were ready.
All right.
There we go. What we talked about is after you answer somebody's question, you check for understanding to make sure that they understood what you told them. And then we also invite them to try to give us a call back if they have any follow-up questions that might be related to that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else would like to chime in?
Kelly, you may have had a note in the chat earlier, but it might fit in here as well. Would you want to share that?
Which note, Cheryl? I just realized that my notes were going privately to you. I just noticed it right now.
Yeah, I think it was earlier. Gosh, there's been a lot of talk on chat. That's the tough part. I'll scroll back here. Gosh, there has been a bunch of them. Oh, you talked about a business type card that you hand out. Could you explain that a little more?
Oh, right. When we have a Ask a Master Gardener booth at our farmers market, we've created it's a bit larger than a business card, but it basically has our website on it. It has the extension office number on it. So if the Master Gardener is unable to answer the question there, they can give them that card and they know how to contact the extension office. How else do you use it?
It has the links to get the neb guides.
Yeah, and it has links for neb guides, the publication link. So when they mention that there's a neb guide about that, then on that business card, there's the publication website.
Okay, good. Here's a couple of other suggestions that came in and said, listen to the question and then ask questions in return to fill in the gaps to get a better understanding, a full understanding of the situation. Again, that probing process that a good questionnaire will ask. Follow up with the person to see if suggestion worked or if they need anything more. Maybe that led them down another path, another step that they need assistance with. Very good. So, okay, let's move on. And, okay, Jessica.
All right. It's easy to do a no versus thinking about what we can do, or a yes. An example, we'll be closed on Friday, but first thing Monday, I'll give you a call and see if we can get more information to you. So think about the way we can turn those no's into yeses. And I think a lot of the conversation and the suggestions that have come up are great ways that we can do that. Next slide. All right, now it's time for the moment of truth. You're going to go back to that initial challenge that we made you think of when we first started, that challenging customer service situation you might have been in. And we're going to give you a little bit of time. We're going to give you some time to break into pairs in where you are and share the situation and think about the secrets of service you just learned about and how these could have been used in that situation to remedy the situation or make the situation better. And then the facilitators at the sites, if you could take a couple minutes after the pairs have shared, 8 to 10 minutes to discuss as a group, and then we'll have everybody come back together and share what they discussed. So we'll give you till, see, 8:30 to discuss at your sites, and then we'll share. I should clarify 8:30 Central Time, 7:30 Mountain. I forgot we have Scotts Bluff out there. All right. Okay, we're gonna come back together. Hopefully you've had enough time to kind of think about how you could use the Secrets of Service with that initial challenge you came up with. Do I have any sites that want to volunteer to share with the rest of the group what you discussed?
Hi, this is Clay Center.
Hi.
And we were kind of talking about a couple of things. We were talking about the whole aspect of someone who is unhappy with the ribbon that they received, perhaps, at the fair. And, we talked about asking questions and things like that. And I think, in my experience, I think that the superintendents at our county fair do a really good job with 4-H projects. Of course, I've been the mean 4-H mom, and my kids enter this and that, and sometimes they and I aren't very good about reading the fair books. So I remember going in once, and the kids were gonna enter some photography, and then we hadn't read that it had to be 5x7s, and of course, we live quite a ways from where you can get pictures printed. And the superintendent did a good job as far as saying, oh, I think you might not have noticed that it has to be this size. So here are your choices. You could get a larger one. You could do a series of 3, or you could enter this into open class. So kind of give other options and give some other ideas. That we did discuss is that maybe giving, I don't like to reward bad behavior. So as far as giving somebody something free when they're in a bad mood, we would say maybe not do that because you don't want them to think that all they have to do is be super grumpy and then they get something. They get a prize for being grumpy. And I wouldn't want to do that. But the customer is, as you say, always the customer. So you do want to, try to be calm and smile, and know that if they get at least some other suggestions, then maybe they're going to be a little bit happier.
Thank you for sharing. I think those are both really good examples, especially I have personal experience with the fair example, and yeah, it really, you can use a lot of those in that situation. It looks like Panhandle commented on the chat how to explain it to an individual who believes produce in a community garden should be free when in actuality the produce is for veterans homes, food banks, etc. Do you want to expand on that? Like how would you use the Secrets of Service to help explain to them? Or is there another site that's also run into this challenge and what you've done to help educate in that situation?
The question I have back to you is that individual looking to get free produce because of a need? Or is it, and if it's a need, are there other locations in which they can get the free produce, such as a food bank, or other types of services that are available in the community? So I would say one of the things that you could do in that situation is, ask those questions. What's going on? What's their perspective? see what, may be going on, volunteer your ideas and what could be some other ideas. Put it beside to say the produce is for. Oh, yeah, that's true. There you go.
Yeah.
So what was the situation going on with that individual? Or is it multiple people that do that?
Hey, can I respond to that?
Yes,
We'll
please.
let you know. Okay.
So coming from Washington, we have, there's farmers, organic farms and such all over the state that they just they have an excess amount of produce, every year. And they just lay them out for people that don't have, that want to come by and get a free head of lettuce. It's actually a cooperative effort on farmers' part to give back to the community. And so I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that around here, but it might be a solution, to donate excess vegetables that you might have, or even from community gardens, and just have a stand specifically for free vegetables. For and most 9 out of 10 people do not take advantage. So it's, those 9 out of 10 people actually have a need. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Cassie.
thank you. Panhandle, do you want to talk? Okay.
We can't hear you if you guys are trying.
Yeah. Their mute is off, but we can't hear them.
Oh, speaker's not working.
Damn. Okay.
Are there any other situations that people came up with? Or any other advice you could offer to Panhandle with their challenging situation?
This might be a long shot, but I was thinking, some people can get, misinterpret what community means. And so maybe just more publicity or getting out there of, we've got a great paper, the Star Herald, maybe a story and about how it's being used, and maybe even some pictures. I mean, maybe that's a way to also reinforce, what the purpose of that community garden is for, to kind of steer it the right way. Just an idea.
Well, there's another idea that just came in on the chat line: to grow an extra row of produce to donate to a local food bank. So that's another avenue that you can give back to the community and help respond to that need.
So ladies, just to let you know, especially for, maybe I'm going to speak for Scotts Bluff a little bit, but Master Gardeners have been working with the SNAP Ed folks and nutrition folks. We've created what they call Chow Gardens, and it's Choosing Healthy Our Way. And they are specifically grown for donation gardens. And then their Master Gardeners are working with them to grow the garden, and then the produce then is turned over to local food banks and pantries. And then the nutrition people step in and help with, how to prepare those vegetables, what the nutrition factors are, and all of those. So a good synergy between two groups that normally haven't worked together. So we are working on places where community gardens, donation gardens are giving produce to areas, but like Scotts Bluff it's going to specific areas. So I don't know if it helps them any, but
Well, that's a nice response for the situation. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl to kind of wrap it up.
Okay, to sort of put all these pieces together a little bit and to summarize, you know, really these whole secrets of service are concepts, and the concepts to really have the best outcome from them, they have to be applied. And the reality is, just like all the situations that were shared, everything's unique. The people, the situation, what happens one day isn't going to what happens the next. And so the best you can really do is just to apply these in a way that makes sense. And you have to have a number of different tools, because everything comes up just a little bit differently. So just like a carpenter would have tools, if you work with clientele and customers, you need to have these available so that you can react fairly quickly and think on your feet. And it also becomes a bit of a habit to make that happen. And so really that's why we pull these out. They're pretty universal and they fit a lot of different situations, but they really resonate. I mean, there's just a lot of meat in here that can really help people out down the road. Okay, we do have one last thing, and if you want to click again, Maryland, I think. Yeah, so remember when I mentioned that sticky note and that we were going to ask you the one thing I'm going to do differently as a result of the secrets of service? So if you have not jotted anything down, either on that sticky note or a piece of paper, please do it right now. And one of the reasons we wanted to put that sticky note out there is that even if you don't have it tonight where your location is, if you can put it on something that maybe you can stick by the telephone or where you work or someplace where it's kind of in your face, a little bit obnoxious, so that it will remind you to kind of do it as a habit, because we all need these little reminders, and so that's the result of that. And so if you would want to just write those things down, and then we're going to turn this back over to the facilitators again. And as you jot those things down, if the people at the local site could just kind of capture some of these, what you do differently, and then either on a whiteboard or flip chart, and then you know, this is one of those shout out kinds of things, and then just either put them in the chat or come on live, and we'll see what everybody's going to do. We'll just take a couple of minutes, and then people can just start adding to the chat or putting them, coming up to a mic. I don't want to shortchange your conversation here and some of these ideas, but it's one of the hardest things in the world to do, to be on the instructor side and be quiet and not know exactly what's sort of happening in some of the rooms. So would we have somebody who would want to step up to the mic and share? And if other locations want to keep tabulating and adding more things, that's great.
This is Kelly, and I'll share my Master Gardener's list.
Sure, great.
Okay. Well, they're going to ask the powerful questions or open-ended questions and avoid yes/no questions when they can. Redirect expectations. Smile regardless of how you feel. I like this one. Plants are forgiving. They haven't read the book. Use phrases like, could you tell me? Please describe to me. And then set expectations. That's what was shared on our end.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Kelly. Do we have another site that would want to just share some of those things? Maybe if you've got some different ones? I'm seeing a lot of things that are really meaningful scrolling in this chat room. So how are we doing? Are we pretty much wrapping up that list? Have we given you enough time? I see a couple of yeses there, maybe.
We're going to go ahead and share out the two things that we're going to do differently. We're going to ask powerful questions to try to find out, what the real issue is, and then give suggestions, of course. And then the other thing is sometimes when people are angry, I tend to take it personally, and I know intellectually that they could be angry about something else, but nobody likes to be yelled at, so I take it a little bit too personally. So I'm going to try not to do that.
It's not always easy to grow that, what I call rhino hide, for those kinds of experiences, but it's just something that you've got to do. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think we'll just, Marilyn, if you want to click to the next one, final one. Basically, the three of us really want to thank you for the service and for all that you do, because you really do represent Extension, you represent the university, and it's just a wonderful partnership in terms of the community, the individuals. People do notice public and private spaces, how they're maintained and kept, and it really helps make our communities a place where people want to live, work, and play. And it really becomes then our Nebraska. So we thank you for that. We thank you for your time and for your passion, and for all that you do. Now, on another note, we've opted actually to do a paper evaluation, and so the last slide said that there was a Qualtrics coming, but we opted not to do that. So the local people, the facilitators, should have that paper evaluation handy, and if you want to just fill that out and then hand it to them, and then if they would send that back to Jessica and she'll tabulate them. And it's a little bit different evaluation in terms of there's some questions, and then there's a column that says before the secrets of service and then after. So we would just want you to rate where you thought you were before, where you thought you were after. And then we have a spot on that front page of what thing you do differently. And then we have a few questions on the back page. So we want to take this opportunity also, just so from Marilyn, Jessica, and myself, it just really has been a pleasure being here and thinking about these secrets of service in a little bit different way. And we sure want you to have a great Master Gardener season. Marilyn, Jessica, any other parting words?
Appreciate everybody contributing their thoughts and ideas. It's hard for us to sit here virtually and to not see or hear you. So when you did chime in, that was really reinforcing for me to hear a person out there and to add to the chat line. So appreciate your interaction and helping us make sure that we're meeting the needs for you as well. So thank you very much. And like Cheryl said, have a great, wonderful growing season and interacting with individuals across the state and representing Extension in Nebraska, University of Nebraska. Thank you for all that you do, and hopefully my brown thumb will become more green because of you. I'm looking forward to trying it again. So yeah, go to it.
Thank you all for having us and chiming in and being willing to participate this way. I'm going to drop my office's mailing address in the chat if you need it. It will be there.
Thank you very much, ladies. I really appreciate everything that you have done for us tonight. This has been an exciting program, and I learned a lot. So at least you have one person that has gotten something out of this. So I will make sure, Jessica, to get the coordinators